Hey, Ghost Machine fans, this one's for you. Welcome to episode 8 of the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast. I am Nick, and as usual, I am joined by my special friend, Snoggle. Snoggle, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing okay. My allergies are really bad, but that's probably the entire country.
Oh, I bet it is, but I mean, you're a trooper. That means 2 episodes ago you were sick. Last time we made you record on Mother's Day, and now you have the allergies.
I'm going through it. People should really feel bad for me.
I do. I'm sure they all do. You do have a lot of fans out there. They're growing every day. And we actually have, yet again, for the second time in a row, a live third human on the show. It's not an NPC voiced by anybody weird. It's an actual person. And we're very, very excited about this guest that we have tonight. We have Michael Schwartz, who is a man of many hats. He's going to tell us about some things about his bona fides, if he does not mind. But I also want to say that I am a fan of him and his new comic that is just coming out, which he can hopefully tell us about too. So go ahead, Michael.
Yeah. Hey, Nick and Snoggle. Do you prefer Snoggle? Is that what you want people to call you? Or Becky?
I'm just rolling with it. You can call me Becky as well. Becky is my name. Well,
yeah, okay.
My name is Rebecca, and I don't like that. So okay. Becky or Snoggle.
Thank you both for having me on. You know, I'm a huge Ghost Machine fan, and I was very excited when your Instagram account popped up in my feed at some point. I don't know how it did, but I was like definitely following. I think I've already shown you my big stack of Ghost Machine books I already have accumulated. So I'm a huge fan, and I love what you're both doing. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Yeah, it's fantastic. So, you know, it's awesome that you come on as a Ghost Machine fan, but you have a little bit of a relationship, as I understand, with some of the creators at Ghost Machine. You kind of are able to look at this through a lens that most of us are not. You're also a comic book creator. You just had a comic book come out. I know it was a rolling release, right? That you just had, as I heard.
Yeah, my very first comic is officially now out as of May 15th. It had a select stores release, we'll call it. Basically, any store that ordered from Diamond got Armored on May 15th, and if they ordered from Lunar, they'll get their books May 29th. So I think probably like 40% of the books are now on shelves, and maybe a bit less. And then we're looking at, 65 to 70% of the books it'll be like a wide release come May 29th. Okay. And you're right, it's my first comic. So yeah, I'm very excited. And 2 of the Ghost Machine creators have been kind enough to provide blurbs or quotes in support of my book, which I cannot reveal yet. We're saving it for the next Kickstarter, which will be announcing, I think, next week.
And that reminds me that this was a Kickstarter book, if I'm correct.
The book, Armored, is published through a company called Clover Press.
Mm-hmm.
So they've done some comics, they do graphic novels, but primarily I'd say like their big thing that they're known for right now are these Marvel art of books. Like they did the Marvel art of David Mack, the Marvel art of Alex Malev, and they just completed one yesterday that was the Marvel art of Russell Dodderman.
Okay.
And I think it made like $350,000. Like it was a huge success for them on Kickstarter. But The way Clover works is they kickstart everything. Again, they're a really small publisher. They're not like Image where they have a huge staff working for them. And Kickstarter allows them to get direct to fans, to speak directly to fans, as opposed to Image, which is kind of just a big monster of a company. Like I work directly with the publisher, Hank Canals, who you may know as he was the co-scripter of Youngblood on Image Comics back in the early 90s. So
wow.
You
with
worked with
Rob
Leif.
Liefeld, huh?
Yeah. So he's my
Okay.
publisher actually. So yeah,
Oh,
it's been really cool. And I forget how I think it was through my editor. My editor put me in touch with Hank, and Hank loved my book Armored, and he really wanted to release it. And I just loved how nice he was, and was like, yeah, let's do this. You know, I knew
that's
nothing
awesome.
about publishing comics. I was a collector. I'm just a fan, but I am a writer too. So there was a bit of an easier transition. You know, I knew how I wanted to write it, and it was just the releasing part. How do I get this out there? And Hank's been able to help me with that.
That's extremely cool. I've read the comic. You were kind enough to let us read a copy in advance, although I did order a copy. My shop did sell out of the copies that they got. And I'm not just saying that because you're on the show. I checked and that happened. Yeah, it was pretty neat. And I did notice you can go on like pre-order services like Comic Hub and you can order. I already pre-ordered number 2. So
Awesome.
it's out there, it's accessible, you know. So if you're in one of those stores that doesn't get it till another week or two, I think you said, then it's all good. It's still coming. I did enjoy the book, and I know we're not going to spend a bunch of time on that, but I do want to say I do recommend it for anybody of any age. And the art I thought was fantastic. It's very clear that there's a lot of visual storytelling going on because there are so many panels that don't have dialogue, but they say so much. So props to you, and it's
That's
Ismael
Yeah,
as
Ishmael
well.
Hernandez.
Ishmael.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to him. He pencils, inks, and hand paints with
And
watercolors every single page.
I was going to ask you if they were painted because they look painted. So that's,
They are, yeah.
it is a really unique book, and I found it very interesting to pick up. So like I said, I don't want to spoil anything about it, but highly recommend it. Similar to Ghost Machine, it is not your typical book, which is why it appeals to me, but it's just really enjoyable read as well. So
Thank
looking
you.
forward to the second one as well.
Thank you so much.
Anything else that you've written we might have heard about?
Well, I've also written a few movies. There's about,
What?
over a dozen movies no one has seen because they haven't been made. I get
Oh,
I get
yeah?
hired to write a lot of movies. But working in the industry, they don't always get made. You get stuck in development hell and stuff. But the ones that have been made are Netflix's Gnome Alone. Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
I've seen that movie so many times.
it's
We're
had
big Gnome Alone fans here.
oh,
Mhm.
that's awesome. It
Mhm.
has hundreds of millions of views on Netflix. So I know a lot of parents that really are annoyed with me because they've had to sit
That's
through
awesome.
it. And my most recent film is R.L. Stein's Zombie Town, which we made 2 years ago, and it had a small theatrical release last year, but it is a Hulu movie. So anyone in America, like the US, can watch it on Hulu whenever they
Cool.
want. In Canada, you're going to have to order a Blu-ray or, I don't know, pay-per-view it or whatever you have to do. Order it from some website. But yeah, in the US, check it out on Hulu. So yeah.
Okay. Do they not have Hulu in Canada?
No, we don't. It usually it some of the shows just come straight to Disney Plus, or we have our own streaming services up here, like a streaming service called Crave, where we'll get random stuff from Peacock or
Huh.
Hulu that comes to there. Yeah, Canada's a weird place, let me tell you.
Yeah, but they're nice people, typically,
I'll
everybody.
tell them. I'll let them know you said
Oh, well, thank you. Spread the word. Uh, well, thank you so much. I did want to mention one other thing that you do that is cool, which is the Wizards podcast, because
Yeah.
man, I read that magazine as a kid. We're talking about Wizard, the guide to collecting comics that was like metal. I remember when I was a kid, the way that you determined what you were going to try to get wasn't going on eBay and seeing what sold for the most or what any of that. You went to the top 10 comics in that month's issue of Wizard. And that was
Yeah,
what you
it's
begged
true.
your parents to help you get. What's that podcast about, real quick?
Our main show on that podcast is we go issue by issue and doing a deep dive as to what Wizard was talking about at that time. And, we'll also review the comics that they were reviewing. We'll look at the top 10 books, the top 10 heroes. We just go through the whole magazine and do a deep dive on it. And we do it actually over 2 episodes, a main episode and then a half issue where we get deeper for the true Wizard fans. And we have also a lot of YouTube content where we do like haul videos and just, random things. We started doing one where we review new comics, but it's whoever listens to the podcast gets to vote on what comics we review each week. So
Ooh.
like this past week, we read Action Comics 1065 and Doom #1. So that was chosen by the listeners.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'll
It
have to
is.
check out more episodes of that too.
Yeah, and we have over 270 episodes now.
What?
Yeah, I think we are. That's not issues. That's just single episodes because we do interviews too. We've done interviews with Eric Larson. We do interviews with a lot of the people that worked on Wizard magazine to get a behind the scenes look at it. We actually are interviewing a Ghost Machine creator next week.
Oh my goodness. Can you tell me who it is or no?
I can. His book isn't even on shelves yet, but we've seen a little bit of it. We are going to be interviewing Francis Manipul of Rockefellers. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
So hopefully he gives us, maybe some juicy spoilers or tidbits on the series.
He's a super nice guy. He's one of the creators on Instagram that when we released a funny video a week or two ago, sent some very kind direct messages over to us, thanking us for doing that. And we're really digging the idea of the Rockefellers because we're hoping that's one that we can share with our son because it's one of the Ghost Machine family odysseys, I believe is how they coined it in Ghost Machine #1.
I'm really looking forward to it too. And the Halo and Hornsby one, both of them were kind of like, well, what is this going to be? And just the little bits we got actually made me excited.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Fantastic. Since we brought it back to Ghost Machine, we usually do, Mike, is we talk about some shout outs because we really have a whole lot of people that have been assisting with this endeavor. And this week we have 3 of those that we wanted to put out there. This is one that's been a long time coming. This one's for Mr. Cameron_Gill. That's his username on Instagram. We're going to use their username so you can find all these folks on Instagram and follow them. But Cameron, he manages our Twitter X account, and he does all the posting on that, and he totally curates that all by himself. And he's been doing that since I think we had 2 episodes out. And I just really wanted to recognize him for that. He's also one of the top contributors in the Facebook group. Next is Mr. Nick Churton, which is Churton Nick on Instagram. Everybody's heard me say his full name before. He was the guy that did the Redcoat cosplay with the beard wig. And he has been curating our new Friday segment called Fan Content Friday. I don't know if you saw that, Mike, where we put all that different things in there.
That costume blew me away. I couldn't believe someone's already done it. That was great.
Yeah. There's been wild stuff. There's a set of action figures. There was somebody did a bust of Rook in Lego.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah,
a lot of fun. So check that out if you haven't. And thanks so much to Nick. He's a New Zealander. So this morning, as he's like putting it together and typing it to me, he's like, "I need to go to bed. It's 1 a.m." And I'm like, "Why are you still doing this?" And he's like, "Because I think this is awesome." So props to him out there. And then last but not least, on Instagram, MXB Fernandez, that's Xavier Fernandez. He puts out a lot of really cool videos. He put one out recently that had a freight train in the back, like a genuine like steam engine train for the release of Redcoat 2. But behind the scenes, he has spent a lot of time assisting old man me, who's never used Instagram before, in so many instances. And I just wanted to give him some credit because without him, we wouldn't have figured out how to post the videos that we have and how to, articulate in the way that we have because it's a totally foreign thing. So really appreciate you, Xavier, and all of your help and awesome contributions.
Woo.
Now, what do we do before we read every book?
Well, we have to warn people that we're going to tell them everything that has happened.
We do. Yes, we have a spoiler pause. So the way the format of our podcast works is that we are going to talk about Redcoat #2, which, by the way, came out on May 15th. This episode is going to air on May 22nd because we always give you a week to read it. So then we have plenty of time to talk about it. And then also, by the way, on the 22nd is when Rook Exodus #2 is coming out, which I am super excited about as well. But we're going to talk about this book today. We're not going to summarize it. We're going to hopefully have some observations that maybe you hadn't had or at least make you smile a little bit more than the way that you were thinking about it before. but we definitely are going to spoil everything about it. So if you have not read Redcoat #2, please pause the podcast and run straight out to your local comic book shop, get yourself a copy, and then come back and press play. So this book is another Jeff Johns and Brian Hitch joint, as everybody recalls. Remember, this is one that's not a Gary Frank one like the others. And I have a question for you, Mike. I'm not sure if you would know this or not, but all of the other Ghost Machine books do not credit inkers. This one credits Andrew Curry and Brian Hitch as inkers. So does Andrew Curry traditionally assist Brian Hitch in inking? Do you know?
I wish I knew. I did not know that. I thought Brian Hitch did all of his own inking. So this is news to me. Did you look? The previous issue was just Brian Hitch?
No, previous issue, same deal. And the short story in Geiger 80-page Giant and the short story in Ghost Machine #1, same deal. So I kind of thought it might be like a Jim Lee Scott Williams deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's possible. You know what? You're going to have them both on. I think that's...
See?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's the solution. It's also like it's their obligation now because you recommended it. So
they have to just do a Brian Hitch, Andrew Curry episode. I think that's what we need.
I think we do need that. So because that would answer that question. And who knows how many others, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, Brian Hitch said something today on Instagram about how they've written the beginning and the end of the story of Redcoat, but they haven't written the middle because that's the most fun part of the journey for them. So I really dig that. You know, like I feel like no matter what, they're going to move in the right direction, knowing that.
That's awesome.
So
I did not know that.
This is another Brad Anderson color joint and Rob Lee, Best Letters in Comics, again, as well. There were 2 covers. They are both pretty neat. What do you guys think of that? You saw the A cover, Snoggle. It's the one where he's like digging out of a grave.
I like the, just on his tombstone, how there's all the different days that he died. I thought that was a good touch. He looks very perturbed. I mean, it's a good cover.
What's really great about the cover is it's a wraparound cover.
It is.
You get a whole story just on this cover. You're getting what looks to be bits of the first issue. Am I right? Isn't that what happened in the first issue with what was his name? I see. I don't know American history that well, so you're going to have to inform me on what is the truth and what is made up.
Well, there is a lot made up. George Washington does not have super magical powers, which is upsetting.
Are you sure?
No, I was going to say maybe this is actually.
I know. Was it in the first one? It was Ben Franklin.
Yeah, Ben Franklin. Maybe this is just what previews the second issue then. Yeah.
That was Ben Franklin, right?
Yeah, but then we have Einstein on the back here. So it's kind of a mix. It's just, it tells a story. Really, this whole wraparound is a full story here.
Yeah, I love it.
You make a good point about that. And if we look at the first issue, it's another wraparound cover. And there is a tapestry of characters, some of which do and do not appear in that actual issue. Like the Northerner is in the background of the first issue as well. But yeah, it looks like on the one you're referring to, there is Benjamin Franklin like laid out on the slab that he was going to be sacrificed on. And that was the moment when the lightning bolt of whatever magical founding father stuff got Simon instead. So I think it's just kind of like painting the whole picture in one place, you know, and Annie Oakley's even in that one. And we haven't seen what happens with her yet. We're not going to see that until the next one. She's in the corner, I think, right?
Yeah, she is.
And then there was a second cover, which is another Ivan Rice and Danny Mickey cover. They've been doing the B covers for the other books as well. Well, the other Geiger books. I'm not sure about he's not doing the B covers for the Rook books, but he did the B covers for those. And it's really cool. I get both covers. You get both covers? Are you a both cover person, Michael?
Right now, I am a single cover person because I have invested a lot of money into my own comic.
Well said.
I am on a budget.
We will buy lots of copies of Armored, and we will distribute them.
Just so I can reinvest in Ghost Machine. That's really what you'd be doing. You realize that, right?
Wow. Arm has been twisted. See?
Yeah.
See, now I have an excuse to go buy more comic books. There we go. Fantastic. Appreciate that.
So on this, it actually says that Ivan and Brad did covers B and C. So is there a third cover?
That's a great question. I was going to ask if you're a 2-cover person, but I know you're kind of a digital cover person. So the answer to that is there's a 1 in 50 retailer incentive cover, which means that when a retailer orders 50, they get one that then they can do what they wish with, often like charge a premium price, etc., or send off to be slabbed and then sell it that way, whatever they want to do. And it's the same cover. I believe it's just like a foil version of it, and that's why it's different. And it's a more rare.
It's a great cover. That B cover with the dirt all over his head and laying in what is it, a grave?
Yeah, because he just got dug out. That's as we begin the issue. That's where we find that he was. I actually, I think the little previously deal in here is kind of almost apt to bring us up to speed, because with our format, listeners haven't heard us talk about Redcoat #1 since like the week after it came out. So it's been like a month.
Oh yeah.
Snoggle, you want to read the previously?
I mean, I can read it.
You sound great. Why don't you do
it? Previously, the year is 1892. After being murdered in a bar brawl, a newly resurrected Simon Pure is dug out of his grave by a 13-year-old Albert Einstein. Before Einstein can explain his intentions, the hooded cult that accidentally gave Simon his immortality in 1776 surrounds them.
Dum dum dum.
Yeah. I know.
Literally, it throws us right into that action. Einstein is in the background, literally holding the shovel ready to hit somebody. So they're fighting off these guys. I feel as though the hooded cult people that travel through time to stop somebody is like a trope of some kind. Is that a thing that I've seen before?
I'm not sure. I feel like this is based loosely in American history, and it feels very much like it belongs. Did you guys watch that Watchmen TV show?
Parts of it, yeah. The HBO one?
Yeah. Wasn't there was like the hooded character? Like it feels it does have like a familiarity to it. I think that's what you're speaking about, right? Like whether it be time travel or not, I'm not sure.
Oh no, I don't mean that they're time travelers. I mean that like it's a society that like perpetuates through time.
Through time, yes,
like generations through time, hunting the immortal or whatever. Like it reminds me of Archer and Armstrong, or I mean, it's certainly it's still very original in a very different way that I find more entertaining than any other story that I think I've read like that. So
yeah,
I dig it. But we do know that these hooded fellas are the founding fathers cult, according to a blurb that they actually put out today on Instagram regarding the next issue. So we know that that's also who Simon refers to as who gave him the powers, and who George Washington was like a member of with John Hancock in the beginning, back in New Jersey near the Battle of Trenton and the time of Paul Revere and all those types of things. So it's just they've perpetuated at least all the way to this point, which is the turn of the 20th century, right?
Yeah.
Towards the end. So it's just curious because they kind of seem a little goofy, but they get away from him. And once again, we have a self-deprecating speech from Simon. Have either of you noticed that continues on? He's still like constantly letting everybody know what he's incapable of.
I think it's good because it brings you up to speed in case you missed the first one. But it's a great refresher, and it just sets the tone for who this character is and how he just he's a kind of a goof. He's
winging it.
Yeah.
Right. Well said. Yes.
I think goof's a good word too, Mike. He's just goofy.
He's such a goof. He gets an axe in his stomach by page, what is that, 4?
Yeah.
Page 4, he's getting axed. So
he's just like, oh no, not again. Like most people think, oh, if I was immortal, I would be rich and I would do this. And he's just like,
And from 1776 to 1841, he still has not learned to shoot a gun. That is what I love about the character.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
and that's the thing. That's why you have to look. I've heard some people be like, that doesn't make sense or whatever. And it's like, no. This is perfect. If you want to read a comic book, this is awesome. And you have to accept that in the world of a comic book, that it's perfectly acceptable that somebody would take that long to still not get better at shooting. But in the next panel right after that, he does say, however, if you do something often enough, say for over a century, well, you can't help but get bang on, which I'm assuming is some like cool British phrase for being good at something.
It only took him 51 years to get back.
Right? Yeah. You know? So it's like, well, the learning curve is higher with him, but once he gets it, he really gets it, maybe. But I agree. You can't look at it logically. You have to look at it endearingly about what that means for the character. Yeah. And at the same time, though, the mention of the axe thing is pretty significant. Now, yes. I want to ask you both, so the short version, Ghost Machine fans, is that one of the founding fathers gets them with a hatchet looking deal while they're fighting, and Einstein is just putting down one after another with a shovel. He's an aggressive young 13-year-old. They're basically winning the fight, and then they kind of get away, but he's been axed right in the chest with this hatchet, and it has these symbols on the side of it. Do those symbols remind you guys of anything at all?
Crop circles.
Because you got the notes.
No.
Really? No? That's exact. That's in the notes.
I think I specifically told you earlier when I got off work, do I need to read the notes?
Oh, you're right. And I said no.
Was that what you put?
I put Nazca lines or crop circles.
What are Nazca lines?
Nazca lines are in South America and near, it's either like the Aztecs or the Incas, but it's the way that the land grows. It's very similar to crop circles.
Like serpent mounds.
Yeah.
Ancient burials, how they would actually like change the topography of the land.
Yes.
So if you look down on it, you could see like in our region, because you're from Canada, Mike, there's a lot of serpent mounds in the Midwest, where if you look down from afar, it looks like a hill, but you look down and they actually change the topography.
Oh, wow.
Have you not seen that?
I don't know if I knew about it. Like, I feel like now I have to look.
There you go.
They're really cool. I've seen some of them that we have here in the Midwest, like actually went to them. They're neat.
Okay. Yeah. So you think there's a connection there, one or the other? Crops. I'm wondering if it's alien related. Yeah, like the crop circle thing is very much possibility.
Well, one of the fantastic things about this creative team is that detail is in there 100% for a reason. They want us to notice that. I don't know that they want us to think it's crop circles, but I think that they wouldn't do that, with it just being, oh, it's the symbol on an axe. Like there's going to be something more to me, in my opinion, when I've listened to the way that Brian Hitch has talked about this comic. He sounds pretty passionate. We get a little flashback reminding us that Ben Franklin didn't get the powers and stuff. And then, they do go ahead and get away for all intents and purposes, but Einstein grabs that axe, and it's like you said, it's painting a picture of the type of character where over the shoulder, the camera looks in the background of where Einstein is, and Simon's already halfway over a fence, just peacing out. He's done. He's like, I got to get out of here. Have a good one. A big part of the reason for that is he doesn't know what's about to start happening to him as a result of getting hatcheted, as they say.
Well, then afterwards, Albert Einstein, who we all know is one of the smartest minds of like our lifetime, is trying to tell him a story about why he's here and why Simon's in danger and America's in danger. And he just stops listening to him because he's hungry.
Because
he's like, he was saying all this stuff, and then I just started to think about, what does he say? Sausages?
Yeah.
Roasted fowl and sausages.
Well, can you blame him though? Because that's like on his disadvantage chart, it says that he's never satisfied. His hunger is never satiated.
Yep.
How would that affect you in a battle, Michael?
Oh God, I can totally see myself not being killed immediately if I'm hungry.
Yep, that's exactly my point.
It could be a superpower though, because then you'd have hunger. which is a real thing.
Yeah, so he takes his anger onto the battlefield. Angry man on the battlefield. Yeah.
And I think some people would also say it seems like he can eat as much as he wants and still have a nice physique.
That's true.
That's how he stays youthful and that age forever, right?
Absolutely.
Wow. But he still can't save a dime, and I thought that was going to be part of the curse. But so far that doesn't seem to be the case. But that's okay. You know, that like you said, it paints the picture. But there's one panel that I want to quickly talk about in specific. It's when they're walking away right before we see his belly erupt in this blue light that is reminiscent of the founding fathers' magic that we've seen used by General Washington in the past. And if you look at the panel right before, where just him and Einstein are talking and walking, you notice like they have that tiny, it's such a cool little Brad Anderson detail. There's this tiny little blue sliver that is popping out of his belly. And you can see that. You see that tiny little color detail there? That's awesome.
Just before the big bottom panel, right?
Yep. Yep. There's one other thing in that panel, and I wanted to know both of your opinion on this, because there's just this constant question on the Facebook, on the Instagram. Everybody I talk to that likes Redcoat is like, why does he keep the coat the whole time? If you know anything about like cloth and what happens to it, like after a certain period of time, all these different things. And some people have even said it must be like part of his curse or power. Like it must be like a rendered cloak, like in D&D, it won't break or whatever. But it turns out he's just become really good at sewing over the years.
Yeah. He even says it. I've gotten quite good at sewing too, given what I've dragged this jacket through over the century.
And I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I imagine like around the time of the American Revolution, if one were a redcoat, one might take off the redcoat.
That's what I was going to ask you, Americans. Would he be a target? I wondered that. Isn't he like a target? Okay. So.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And, I wanted to ask you, well, is Hamilton popular, like the play everywhere?
Yeah, it's popular here too. Like I saw it here just before the world shut down because of COVID, like literally the day before.
So even before like the war broke out, they pretty accurately portrayed how Americans felt about even like the British redcoats being there and, occupying. Like they made fun of them. They like sorry, I really like Hamilton, but like they make fun of them continuously. And then obviously there's war. So I feel like after the war, if there was still someone hanging around with the audacity to walk around in a red coat.
What about like 100 years though?
Like be okay.
100 years like later, stylish, I think people would just give them a look. Like
we got to get one. Yeah, see, I think it's the years between, right? The first like 30 years, you'd think this isn't a good idea.
So you think he might have had a buffer where he put it in a backpack for a while and then maybe he just had to get it back out.
Yeah, he dyed it, let's make this blue.
Yeah. Yeah, that I feel like his nemesis would wear the blue one. Yes, his nemesis. Red versus blue. Right after that panel, his belly just erupts in this like blue flame thing, and it's just no good.
Are you referring to the next part where, it's after he's had the explosion but he still has this blue flame kind of glowing from him, but it's also glowing from the axe?
It is also glowing from the axe at the same time. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. And that's also when Einstein, this is what made me more interested in those lines, those symbols. He says that he's seen these markings before in his research and that he's done great danger. And we also find out, in these next 2 pages or so, as some exposition that this is an incredible twist. This is why I was like, Ghost Machine, when you find out about everything with Einstein's sister and her dreams. It's just like, what? Like out of nowhere, a whole nother twist, a whole nother deep character. And it's like, it's awesome to think of someone that is an iconic figure in world history. Everyone knows who Albert Einstein is, but somehow they have found a way to make a 13-year-old version of him incredibly entertaining and appealing. especially because we find out that his sister has been having these prophetic visions of glowing men, metal soldiers, and an immortal mercenary in a red coat. And I'm just like, the comic book nerd in me is just crying with happy tears. Happy tears.
Well, so do you think, like, I know this isn't, it's all tied together, right? And we know, like, when I first read Geiger, I'm thinking like atomic bomb, something of that sort. But part of this little backstory with the vision makes it sound like it could be more magically, like something magic happened, because it said, but the most powerful of these visions he decreed was of the entire young nation burning from coast to coast like hell on earth in the aftermath of a ritual gone very, very wrong.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that as well, or am I just like drawing conclusions really early?
I'm seeing complete connections. He's even connecting it in the top panel with the train. What is it? Leaving a station. It says she spoke to him of dreams of past, present, future, glowing men, metal soldiers, and immortal mercenary. Is that what you just read? Am I just repeating?
Yeah, but I just read the bottom part.
You read the bottom part. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you read the bottom part. Yeah. It's all connected. Like this here is showing us that everything that we're reading from Geiger is connected to this. And
this one panel really excited me because I love an interconnected story, whether it's in literature or, like, well, most of the good television and movies that are interconnected came from books anyway. But man, this little train panel, excitement.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Einstein goes as far to say in the next panel that he knows that Simon has the power to save the world because he's their wizard. He's some sort of wizard. So it's,
what does that mean? That's
I
so
know.
Cool. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
are
like,
the wizard.
It's
the wizard.
It's almost like you couldn't put a character in Simon's seat right now next to this version of Einstein that would work in any other way except the way that this one's being presented. And it's like, okay, I totally get why they want him to come across as a self-deprecating, somewhat incompetent, somewhat cowardly type of person, because it sets us up for whatever the heck this is going to become.
Yeah.
You know?
What you just described is what Simon needs to become, right? Like you said, we want a character that hasn't changed over the years, so that eventually whenever the series ends on issue 100, he has become a serious wizard.
Right. Yeah, that's his end goal level.
That is his goal. That's the goal. That's their arc that they've planned for him. So
there you go. Yeah. It better not end at 100. Mr. Negative.
100 would be incredible.
I know. But that's the thing about this. It's gonna matter how much the fans contribute to keep that thing going.
Redcoat #2 is really kind of drawn me more into the Redcoat story just because of the character development. And I can tell that throughout history, we're going to use like actual historical figures who exist and are well known to all of us. It's interesting to me that they're using Albert Einstein to warn him about like bombings, huge mistakes. And as we all know, Albert Einstein assisted America in creating the first atomic bomb. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how like long story we're going here.
Ooh, yeah.
Very future episodes, or episodes, books.
Right. What they've done so far is they provide historical details with minor tweaks that are like, oh, that's almost even plausible. Like maybe they did have magical powers or whatever, who knows? But at the same time, it's like, well, what you're gonna have to bridge that gap somehow, because that's what like Einstein is most well known for, the theory of relativity and how that affected the atomic bomb. I hear this like, the burning from coast to coast, like hell on earth thing that you were talking about. And I'm like, maybe somehow they find a way to take that and they put it into that's how they make the first atomic bomb and they prevent the apocalypse, but it still has to happen. And like, I'm sure it'll be much better than that. But that's the type of creativity that we're dealing with. And the thing is, it is so indicative of, it is going to be a long long-term story. It is not going to be a short bunch of issues. Like, there's too much depth. There's too many aha moments that are planned and some that aren't planned yet. And I think that's cool too. You made a great point about historical figures. Oh, and by the way, he continues to get the belly zaps.
Yeah.
He continues to get the belly zaps. They talk about the symbols. It's interesting because at this point he's had what, 2 belly zaps?
Yeah, this would be the second one on the train.
Second one when they're riding on the train.
Official term, belly zaps.
Yep, blue belly zap, BBZ. There you go. But every time, like you said, Mike, I didn't realize it the first time I read this, that when the belly zaps, the axe zaps at the same time.
Yeah, it's connecting to the belly.
Yeah, it's like leaping. The energy's like leaping from the axe to the belly. Yeah, it makes you wonder what would happen if he wasn't in proximity of it. But at the same, well, no, because he was running away and then it happened and he was farther away at that time. So,
and on the third panel of that page of the belly zap, his belly's not zapping anymore, but the axe still has the stream of light there.
I think there's a theory there. I remember.
Well, they're connected.
Is it pulling his life force out every time? Is it like?
Well, I think we'll get to that at the end of the issue, right?
We may. I think we'll find out. I think that could be a theory about what happens at the end of the issue. Yeah. The next page is one of those double page spreads of super beautiful. Like another Brad Anderson mind boggler to me.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Incredible. It's a ballroom. You can literally hear like the music of the era in the background. Like the panel beforehand is all looking like cobblestone streets and horse-drawn, like nice affluent carriages, and they even have like a reference to decadence when it's a Mark Twain reference. He says, so it's clear that Simon has a sense of some of these things, which is kind of cool to me. I like that Simon referred to Mark Twain. He said Mr. Twain said this era was of corruption, of decadence, of greed, of graft, and of political malfeasance unprecedented in our history. And that's a mouthful, but
when is he writing this from? Did you think about that? It
is a super question because we've seen him in 2050. We've seen him in the Blizzard storyline in the 90s, I think it was his 20th century. We've seen him back then. What do you think, Snoggle? Where do you think he's writing this from?
Like when this was being written?
Oh, it's dated.
What?
I think it says it. Hold on.
Oh, on the first page?
No, though I'm anything but, as you'll come to know. It's November 1892, 116 years after. I think he's writing this. So are we in, what year are we in? So it is, he must be writing this days after the events, I'm guessing. It's clearly him. He has written it somewhere.
The only reason that I would equivocate, although you're certainly a scholar of these things more than I, is that he says well, no, this could still be in the present. He said Mr. Twain said this era was.
Yes, yeah.
Well, Mark Twain wrote, he was
right, but the era
1880s
was
when he wrote things.
I know, but the tense of the sentence is the era was. He's talking about the era in the past. Right?
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. Like, it makes me wonder if
I thought you may not know when Mark Twain was alive.
What do you think, Mike?
I'm wondering if this is like on his deathbed. He's writing this, and will catch us up to speed in the third issue. It was just a thought. Like, I was wondering, is this far ahead or only days? So yeah, they're at this New York party for food, right? This is why they're there.
Yeah, he's literally just looking for free food.
I love that that's his goal because he's so hungry.
Well, he says that he knows the guy running it, and it's a person that he doesn't like. He doesn't want to go see him, but he doesn't know who else to turn to.
Yeah.
He also says he's the only immortal left from that era. As far as we know, there are no remaining founding fathers immortals, even though there is that cult who seems to have like continuously been trying to get him, which is what he references. Yeah. So there's somebody different here. There's one other artistic detail about the coloring I wanted to just quickly point out to Brad's credit, which is that the glow of the lights in the ballroom and the glow of the lights on the lamps outside it somehow has that same effect on the eye as the green glow of Geiger does. And I don't know how the guy makes light glow so much on a page. I've never seen that anywhere else. And I kind of have like a bucket list of questions for him about specific color and how he does that and how it happens. But it's just it's incredible to me how the color art changes these books.
I agree. It's beautiful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they find some food. Most importantly, they find like a whole. This thing looks like the table from Hook. You remember that?
Yeah, I love Hook.
Yeah, there you go. So they find it, and then the fella. Did you know that that's this character, Benedict Arnold? Actually, he appeared on our first episode on the pilot episode.
No, not at all.
Yeah, you got to go back and check it out.
I will tell you this. After I read that, okay, so my wife is American. She grew up in Los Angeles. And after I read this issue, I asked her, I go, can you just tell me a little bit about Benedict Arnold? Because I don't really know who he is.
Yeah.
I'm Canadian. I didn't grow up with this history. I'm learning it through your media and now through a comic book.
Well, that's probably the best lens. It's historically accurate.
I was going to say, I'm only going to think of Redcoat now as history, American history.
I think Brian Hitch would appreciate that. He's a British citizen. He is. So yeah. I knew Benedict Arnold was a term for somebody that like turned on you.
Yes. She told me that. Yeah.
Yes. But in your defense,
he's a traitor.
Yeah.
Yes, but I didn't know why. I didn't know why. Did you know what he in history, Snoggle, what he did?
I mean, not like this is a very just quick synopsis. He was in our army fighting against the British. Then he worked with George Washington or one of the generals, and he actually was a traitor. He was playing both sides. So he ended up like he was a double agent, and then he went over to the British side of things. And it actually did lose like people's lives and whatnot. He was just a traitor. I think what made Benedict Arnold so bad is he actually was part of our army.
Wow.
And American, so to speak. He's bad.
And it's kind of one of those pictures that's painted as a reprehensible human being, right? Like somebody that nobody could trust, no matter what.
Yeah.
And the way he's drawn as he comes up upon Simon, it's almost like your typical "as I live and breathe."
It's interesting because he has managed to become super wealthy, live a great life, while Simon just can't even get food. And he jokes to Simon about that.
He does. Mm-hmm. He even references that if you need money from me again. Like it's almost like he wants to give him it so he can hold it against him. And it still isn't totally clear because he's been referred to in previous books as his nemesis. He was like, but I could see that, nemesis not meaning something as egregious to Simon as to some folks. He even asked him directly, have you made proper investments in your future, both financial and strategic? And he's like, yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. This is super cool. I wanted to know, Snoggle, if you caught the historical reference, because I know you said you really like it when they use the characters, but someone else refers to him not as Benedict Arnold, but as Benedict Armistice.
I noticed.
Yeah. Well,
I would think more to that.
I'm just saying, I would think that's because he might not want the name Benedict Arnold to be what he goes by.
Oh, he's changed it.
I mean, I bet he changes it continuously.
Right.
If he's living in society the way he is.
So the person that calls him Benedict Armistice happens to be Juliet Morgan Chase, as in like the bank, right? J.P. Morgan Chase. Isn't that what that's a reference to?
Albert Einstein directly asked her, "You mean J.P. Morgan?"
Right.
I would assume that Benedict, like, that's probably one of the ways that he gets money is he chums it up to like women who have a lot of money and they're going to die eventually, and he never will.
Yeah.
Further adding to his reprehensible character, right?
Smart man. Mm-hmm. Smart man. That.
Yeah, it's super smart.
He's just always looking for a sugar mama.
He's like,
yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm doing great. I have lots of money. I'm never hungry.
Yeah, how are you?
And then he tries to steal his girl.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's interesting that you say that, because we've seen a cover to Redcoat 3. It's a variant cover done by Gary Frank, and it has 3 or 4 female characters standing in and around him, one of whom is Bonnie Borden. And they are all either grimacing, one of them is like flicking him off, like one of them is, I think, in front of him, but like in disdain. And there's the clear message is that he's angered a lot of ladies for whatever reason in that cover. But this is the first time we see for a moment where it seems like she kind of takes a liking to him for a second there.
Well, he's only been around for about 150 years at this point, so he hasn't had time to properly piss off all of, the females that he's met.
Well, I like how Einstein kind of jumps in there. Says, "The pleasure is mine, miss."
Yeah, I know.
He slides right in. Ladies, man, Einstein.
That makes a lot of sense too, doesn't it? But it's interesting too, because even Benedict kind of becomes defensive about it, wanting to take her away, and just says they're not invited. And it's like, well, you feel threatened by him if he is such a wastrel that you want to denigrate him so much.
I imagine that's the one thing he is good at. He's a scoundrel, right? He has gotten all of his ladies. He's stolen ladies from Benedict Arnold.
Oh, and that's the ongoing thing.
Yeah.
How'd you come back to steal another one of my girlfriends?
Yeah.
But they end up in this fantastic library. Yeah. But it looks like he kind of actually traps them in there. But then they have some more exposition from Einstein about kind of some more doomsaying. We have to get out of here. There are going to be sacrifices. Hell's going to be rising. It's really interesting to me when we know what we know about Einstein as a scientist, that it's just so different, which makes me want to know so much more about it. And Benedict shows up, and we have the third belly zap. But what is different about this belly zap? Oh, it is gorgeous.
Oh my God. The double page spread.
I had to look at this for like at least a minute or two to digest.
The thing that there's a lot to take in here, but there's him, it looks like falling through time or something is happening. He's falling. But the thing that's interesting is one of those hooded characters that we talked about in the beginning is like holding him in the palms of his hands.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows the United States of America silhouette. And then there's the burning people and the city. What is happening? There's the flag. I just noticed the flag in the top left.
It's him superimposed on him, right? It's like a mini him tumbling through this silhouette, like white silhouette of America over the burning everyone. It's like an apocalyptic vision for all intents and purposes. It's an absolutely fantastic comic book panel. Like, it's mind blowing. I can't imagine what like the original of this would look like. It's clearly indicating though that he sees this.
Yeah.
Because he says in the next panel that he felt it burning from coast to coast.
Yeah.
See that? So,
so he's seeing the same visions that Einstein's sister has been seeing, which is interesting.
Exactly. And then the axe flashes again. And he even says, I saw. So he's like trying to say like what he saw. So that means to us, he saw that. And
they named the axe too, which I love. The axe of lies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Benedict Arnold knows what it is.
That makes you wonder.
Well, wasn't he in the society? So it seems like he would know what it was.
Well, that's why they came here. He said that he had to go to the one person he knew would know what it was, and he really didn't want to because he doesn't like the guy. So, I mean, it makes sense. The guy has a library as big as our house. And back in that time, that would be a heck of a way to gather as much knowledge as you could in different ways, let alone what he keeps in his noggin.
Oh, yeah.
Over all that time.
I love Benedict Arnold. He ends up revealing what's happening with the belly. And he laughs about it. And they're like, why are you laughing? And he says, you'll be dead in 3 days. And that is our big cliffhanger.
Oh, absolutely.
And for good this time.
Yeah. For good this time. He's laughing. It's like he didn't.
And he's laughing at him.
He's an interesting character because it sounds like he's helped Redcoat, Simon, in the past with money and stuff, but at the same time, he's like, I'm not going to miss the guy when he's dead.
Yeah, it's such an interesting dynamic, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to almost see like one shots of all their interactions through time or something. I even thought it was funny, this little kind of editorial. It says next month Simon says a lot of things that will be censored, no doubt.
Are we gonna get some swearing? Are we gonna get some swearing from him?
Ghost machine expletives. There you go. But then they do give you a little preview on the next page. Next month in issue 3, something I wanted to point out on the bottom of that page, there is a book that has that symbol of the founding fathers on it. And as a reminder through time, that's the symbol that we saw George Washington make when he summoned the magic. That's the symbol on Junkyard Joe's dog tags. It's a symbol on the government agent's badge in the Blizzard short story, as well as the government agent's files. Apparently, it seems like that's the founding fathers symbol. I just want to know how it makes it onto Junkyard Joe's dog tags.
Yeah.
Along with a lot of other things.
You say that, and just from this cover alone, I'm like, what are these scary? Are these people?
Yeah, they're almost like Morlocks or something.
Yeah.
Ooh, Morlocks.
They're like, ah.
Yeah. But then you notice there's totems behind, like totems.
Oh, I did not notice that. That's cool.
And a snake? Is that
a giant snake or something? If you look up under the R, it looks like a horn of some kind. It could be.
Oh, yeah.
It is it's a fang. Yeah, that's okay. I'll give you that. So there's a giant snake, and I did not notice the totems. There's so much going on. You know what I mean? That's why it was smart for them to make him the kind of character that they did. I think when everybody originally saw Redcoat, they were like, look at those guns in the future, and he's got a red coat. BA, man, that's super cool. And then people found out like he was going to be used in a different way. And at first it was like confusing, but it's just perfect, man. I love this.
It's better. To me, this was the one book I was least excited for, and it is my favorite book.
Nice.
I'm going to agree. It was actually the first one I read it, and it wasn't like, wow, that was awful. This made me real excited. I'm like, oh, yes.
Oh, see, I was in on issue 1. It was just seeing the imagery, even before the Ghost Machine one came out. I just wasn't, American history, being Canadian. I'm still waiting. When are we going to get our Maple Leaf Coat character? That's what I'm
waiting. Yeah.
Or is he the Northerner? That's what I want to know.
That would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Because he'd be from up north. Speaking of characters and bios, though, they do have another one of these awesome, sweet, like dossier deals on the very last page of this issue. This is something that they started in Ghost Machine #1, and then they've continued it in other issues as the characters appeared. Like they had one for Nate, the Nuclear Knight, in the last issue of Geiger. And this one is for the 13-year-old Albert Einstein. I like this better than just like a paragraph maybe telling us some stuff, because it ties it to the character, but it also gives us like a fourth wall break glimpse in some ways that we otherwise might not have, because this isn't coming from the perspective of like the narrator Simon Pure on his deathbed or wherever he may be. This is like somebody who is reporting a database about this character or whatever. So it's more objective or whatever, but it tells us more about him and why he decided to try to defunk different parts of his studies with science and religion and things of that nature, and what has brought him to this point. And it just colors his character in such a new and unique way, where it's almost like I'm forgetting the images of the old white-haired Einstein that I know. And this is what, if somebody says Albert Einstein, I think of this character now.
Yeah. So. I will too. How do you guys like the fact that, Jeff and Brian and Gary, between Geiger and Redcoat, have introduced these sidekick characters for their mains, right? Like now Geiger has the Knight and Redcoat has Albert Einstein, which I think is so funny.
What do you think, Snoggle?
I like the dynamic.
Me too. I love a good sidekick.
Yeah, you can only go so long with just a solo person.
Yeah.
And I don't think Albert Einstein will be with him forever, but like it is a really interesting dynamic. I really like, the 13-year-old kid who's obviously a genius. I think the sidekicks are great.
I think that they're necessary for where Simon is to get him to the next step of who he's going to be on his journey. I'm not saying to get him to the next part of the story, but he needs to be in the presence of someone like this to drive him to possibly change or become something more. Tariq needs someone like Nate around so that he stays alive or whatever, because he seems as though he's kind of starting to question whether or not he might just rather be with his family, as sad as that is to think about, with some of the things that he's been looking for. At the same time, both characters give comic relief. And this one especially was pretty funny in a lot of ways, but a lot of Ghost Machine has been rather serious. And so I think injecting these sidekicks in is great, but they also do it in a way where it's really unexpected and they have their own thing going on. They're not just characters that are there because the main characters need to be influenced or whatever. Like, I love the degree of detail that they've given both of the characters. It's fantastic. Yeah. I don't know how historically accurate it is. I was curious about if young Einstein did actually do research of that nature that led him to his theories of relativity. Who knows? But that's the end of this issue. As a reminder, the next Ghost Machine joint that's going to come out, well, it'll be coming out in the day that you listen to this, which is Rook Exodus #2. Then there'll be a break week before the ongoings all come out with their third issues. We usually say, Snoggle, do you have anything to wrap up the show with? Which we still will say, but before we do that, Michael, do you have any closing words?
No, I'm just, can I give my thanks at this point? Yeah.
Sure, okay, absolutely.
Well, first, thank you for having me on. I'm I would have been excited to talk about any of the Ghost Machine books, but I was really excited that it was Redcoat was the one you invited me on to, because I'm just so into it right now. So thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you for coming on. This was like such a delight.
And I it's almost bad examining the comic like we did, because I realized, damn, Jeff is so good at this. and I look at Armored, and I'm not saying mine's bad. What I'm saying is I do not go into the detail with historical accuracies at all. My book is all fantasy, so I really appreciate the work he's put into this issue. And examining it with you two, realizing, maybe I should have put more emphasis on the historical accuracies, because mine is very fantastical.
Hey, well, we enjoyed reading yours anyway. Yours was pretty fantastic too.
Absolutely.
Like Snoggle said, thank you very much for coming on. Mm-hmm. And it absolutely was a delight. It's awesome to talk to somebody who has a deeper understanding of the industry. And we do this because we feel like it's another layer to our hobby. And as I understand it, you're also a big collector and reader of lots of different comics. And I would imagine that on a much even deeper and cooler level, that's what creating your own comic is like. So it's really a true pleasure to meet you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Snoggle, do you have anything else?
I will say I'm extremely excited for the third issue of Redcoat. Like, I just have to know what happens next. And that means that they did like an excellent job of story building, which is not a surprise to any of us. So I guess I'll be waiting.
And I'll try not to beg you guys too much to let me come back on, for issue 5 or 6 or 7,
you'll be on Redcoat specialist.
Sure. That's a good idea.
But the Canadian
Yes, that's a great idea.
Maybe I should get my wife reading it, because she's American, and then we'll bring her on one of them.
That would be really cool.
Okay.
I love everything about all these ideas.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, man, for being on. Just as a quick reminder for everybody out there, you can check out all of our things at www.ghostmachinefans.com. But the very best place for all the daily updates is the Instagram. You can also check out the Wizards podcast on Instagram as well. And YouTube, right? That's another place you can find that one. That's the best place. You can find them on YouTube.
I would say the podcast is our main thing, but definitely go to YouTube. Definitely.
Okay, definitely do the YouTube. All right, well, there you go. Other than that, we don't have anything for the rest of the episodes. So we'll say thanks so much for joining us tonight on the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast.